I'm normally okay when the horsepower's in front of me under the bonnet, but when it's between my legs, I sort of don't cope with it all that well, so I'm sorry about that. I'm just standing in for Jonathan from Lumley's at the moment due to time restraints, and so this first exercise of just going through and just giving a wee bit of history about Lumley with financial advisors and the reason why it's good to have them behind the PI scheme. The parent of Lumley's is Wesfarmers. Everyone knows Wesfarmers, Coles supermarkets, Bunnings and all the rest of it, heavily into mining. And certainly with the advent of earthquakes and one thing and another, a parent company that's got a multiple range of revenue sources, not just insurance, has been very advantageous for Lumley. So a combination of that, the backing of the reinsurers, their slip is normally oversubscribed by the reinsurers, so it just proves that what they're doing in the marketplace gets the backing of reinsurers. And one of the things that Lumley do is they only insure financial planners. They don't insure the disputes tribunals, suppliers, anybody else. So you're not going to have a fence sitter in court. They are going to be in your side of the courtroom, representing you and not having somebody else from their organisation sitting with another party involved in the litigation against you if it ever arises. So that's very important. Every time compliance or new regulations come into a market, whether it be UK, Australia and latterly here, claims skyrocket, notifications skyrocket. Also that even in New Zealand you see the licensing of real estate, latterly with builders and our own industry, notifications are going through the roof. It's very easy for claimants, due to consumer awareness, it's not binding on them but it's binding on the advisor. So it is very cost effective now to take action if they feel appropriate against an advisor, and we're going to see an exponential curve going forward. So it's not only just the environment that you're in now, it's going to be so much more prolific going forward. I'm not going to even attempt to explain what constitutes good financial advice, because I think the TNP are doing that, and that everybody that's part of the TNP is the creme de la creme of financial advisors, so that it goes without saying that you're actually giving good financial advice. We've got to convey that to the underwriter so that we can maintain the wordings, the competitive premiums and the whistles and bells that go with a good competitive PI scheme. Raising the bar is the key for us to maintain good benefits, pricing and the like for the scheme going forward. So that's just an overview on behalf of Jonathan as far as from Lumley's point of view, as well as some of the claims, and one point has been made that we talk about claims, we talk about notifications, and sometimes we haven't got the hard data that actually shows the outcome of that claim. But certainly the notifications are huge. Advisors are arranging fire and general cover or some other type of cover that they haven't got the expertise in, and it's come back to bite them in the bum. There's, I think Jonathan mentioned fire and general cover that was taken on a whole lot of residential properties on the square meterage from quotable value or some other source. All completely wrong. Houses destroyed in the earthquake and a considerable loss and being held to account. Non-disclosure of medical conditions, we're all aware of that and how that can impact on a claim. And failure for an advisor to update insurance. So when you've got terms or exclusions that to be removed after a 2-3 year period doesn't get removed and a claim results in that exclusion still applying. And these are just some of the more common claims that arise. I'm here as the broker that arranges the PI scheme. You've got TNP as a participant, you've got you, the advisor, and also you've got Lumley, the underwriter. Unashamedly, we want you in our scheme. So the whole purpose of this roadshow is to get more people in the scheme, and to, if you're not in the scheme, why not? Is it because you don't know what we offer under the scheme, or do we have to do other things to entice you into it? Because the TNP, as I said before, is the most progressive collective of risk advisors, and what the PA or the professional association is going to do is raise the bar even further. And what we've got to do between now and October, when the scheme falls due, is to convince the underwriters, we'll start negotiating with them about June, that we are different. We're not like the great unwashed out there. The TNP are special. And when the designations come in, we can go to the underwriter and say, your risk is reduced, not mitigated completely, but it's certainly reduced compared to the advisor world out there in general. So that is when we want better terms, better rates than the general market. For the short time that the TNP PI schemes have been in place, we believe that it's the most cost-effective scheme for the benefits provided, but it's going to get better. For over 450 members that are involved in TNP, there's only just over 150 in the PI scheme. Now, for us to get those benefits, we are punching above our weight. If we got more support, then who knows what we could achieve. And also by raising the bar, as I alluded to earlier, our negotiations with the insurer will bear more fruit. The basic cover or the policy is in the name of the individual advisor. But it's very important to understand that the cover actually goes further than that, because all advisors out there either represent a different brand or an entity, and also that you've got support behind you in the office, distributing terms, whatever clerical process they do, that can also be held accountable. So a claimant is going to get as many people in the sites as possible when they're wanting to get compensation or money. So they're going to name you, they're going to name your brokerage as a co-defendant, they're going to name people in the office, whatever. So the policy responds to all those entities and protects them, even though it's issued in your own individual name. We've talked briefly about Lumley as an insurer. In the financial services area, they represent about 70% of the advisors, or just over. Now, what that means is that they've got a premium pool, not only just from the TNP scheme, but from the general market. They do a lot of aligned agent schemes and others. But what they've got is a premium pool that when the proverbial hits the fan, which inevitably it will or has done from time to time, that they're not going to turn off the tap and say, oh, we're scared of this particular market, we're going to get out of it. They're robust, they've got enough money siloed, because all fire and general insurers silo their premiums as well as their claims for those particular risks. So they're not going to cross-subsidise the PI book for a more profitable line. So it's very important that they've got a good premium pool. We see a proliferation of new schemes just on the market from time to time, and they're underwritten by insurers that are in and out of the market, flavour of the day, get a good premium pool, wait until a bit of a tail hits them, and then they lose their appetite and out of it. So we want consistency and we want substance to back the scheme. And as I said before, the more TNP members that participate will ensure that we maintain and enhance our benefits going forward. If you're trying to compare schemes, what constitutes a good scheme, I could be here till, because it's such an interesting topic, PI, it's so sexy, isn't it? So I could talk to you for ages about it. But trying to summarise it down to, say, 5 important points, or the most important points, is ring-fencing the cover pertaining to you as an individual advisor, and not allowing you to participate in a shared aggregate pool. If you use the analogy of an aggregate pool, say in Christchurch for the earthquake, and AMI, for example, as a common insurer, instead of insuring your house for 300 square metres replacement, said you are going to share an 100 million earthquake pool. And if they had insured under that basis, there'd be a hell of a lot of homeless people in Christchurch because it'd just disappear. In a pooled aggregate scheme, that will happen. If there's a Western Pacific, if there's numerous things that could happen that is going to put a run on financial services PI, the shared aggregate will soon shrink and disappear. So very important to have individual ring-fence protection for you as an individual, and then we get onto the schedule and I'll talk about shared access layers. Run-off cover. None of us are getting any younger, so we're going to pass the baton, retire, put the feet up, do whatever we're going to do. And if you can talk to your accountants, lawyers, valuers, other professionals that buy run-off cover, their pension goes west just to pay for it. So it's very important that you have a cost-effective, guaranteed run-off cover at no cost, which the TNP scheme has. Unlimited retroactive date. That is when a claim is made. It could be for advice given many years ago. So it's not an occurrence-based situation, it's a claims-made basis. So if an individual practitioner applied for a PI policy tomorrow from a supplier, the retroactive date would normally be the time of application. Schemes such as TNP normally have an unlimited retroactive date, which will cover you historically for advice given over a period of time. And for some that have been around for decades, that is going to cover you completely for all that time. So very important, the retroactive date. One of the features that we put in specific for cover is advice for ACC cover. Last time I looked, we were the only ones that specified it as a scope of cover. When asking about others, they say, well, it's not excluded, and that may well be the case. I haven't seen a test case yet, but certainly the way advisors are moving into this space, it's only going to be a short space of time before something like that arises. But we put it in there as a specific cover, and there are some of the advocates around the country that are giving seminars on how to give ACC advice, and Jeff Bailey from Astron's one of them, and he does mention specifically to make sure that your PI cover is robust enough to cover you or protect you for that advice. On excesses, there's inclusive and exclusive. The scheme is exclusive of costs, which means that you do not, if you got a notification and it meant that the insurer was incurring tens of thousands of dollars investigating the claim with accountants, lawyers, private investigators, whatever they are going to spend money on, you are not going to be liable for any excess until such time as a settlement is made against you. So it could be a considerable length of time after a notification before your excess is applicable. So that's exclusive, which is very important. If you chose a high voluntary excess, you wouldn't want to pay that up front on every notification that came your way. And don't be scared of notifications. There's no business out there that has not had somebody question the advice or the process over a period of time. If somebody's been in the business 30, 40 years and has not had a notification, I don't know, it's not normal. So don't be scared of notifications. If in doubt, ring and place on a notification. There's certainly no prejudice against you and your renewal if you've had 5 notifications as opposed to somebody else around the corner who's only had 2. It actually shows probably a more of an awareness to advise notifications if in doubt. Just a brief summary of the liability program. We don't have $1 million available. Minimum is $2 million. Over 50% of the advisors in the market have $1 million. I personally think it's totally inadequate, and hence TNP are always raising the bar, so we bring in the $2 million minimum limit. So that ring fences you. If we had 200 advisors in the scheme and they all had $2 million each, that's an aggregate limit, the equivalent of $400 million. Now, the biggest aggregate limit that I could find in the market is 20 million to be shared amongst, in one case, 150 advisors. That's not a good look. So you've got 2, 3 and 5 million as default options. If you want 7, 10, 15 million, not a problem. If you're unfortunate enough to be liable for greater than 2 million, then you go into a shared excess layer, which is 8 million any one claim and 16 million in the total aggregate. With 150 advisors just over in the scheme, the 16 million shared aggregate limit gives a good ratio. One of the biggest schemes in the marketplace has a 20 million shared aggregate limit and they've got 600 members. So it dissipates pretty quickly if they're exposed in that area. So you've got 2 million ring fence per advisor, if that was the level chosen, and you also have an automatic reinstatement. So if you're unfortunate enough to get a notification that's going to extinguish that 2 million, bang, another 2 million is reinstated within that insured period. So you've got an automatic one reinstatement per insured period, which is October to October. Excess we've covered, territorial jurisdictional limits, nothing fancy or different about that, that's pretty standard. Retroactive date we've covered. And if you chose the investment section or extension, then you have a defence cost benefit which incurs a different excess than your standard PI, and that would be $5,000 as opposed to the $1,000 above, which is for just the straight PI. So investment defence cost, 5,000 excess. Now the monthly premiums, no cost, so there's no discount for cash, so you may as well spread them over monthly instalments because there's no advantage of paying up front. 2 million, 3 million, 5 million there, your defence and settlement costs at $100,000, which will incur the 5,000 excess, and monthly premium no investment, monthly premium with investment. And I think that when you're comparing apples to apples, you'll find that that is the most competitive premium for the benefits. I'm not saying they're 20, 30% cheaper than a comparable plan, because you won't get that in the marketplace. If you got a PI quote for 30% less than that, it hasn't got the same benefits. It's just illogical, and insurance doesn't work that way. When the rubber hits the road at claim time, when we're dealing with claims in Christchurch and someone's looking for a indemnification of $10 million, they're not saying, did I pay too much last year for my premium? No, they're wanting expectation at claim time. They're wanting an outcome. They want the thing to perform, not to let them down. And you've got to buy quality to have that. It is fit for purpose, is what we're designing here for the TNP scheme. And so we believe in the short time that the scheme's been around that we and the underwriters, TNP, all the participants have done a good job to get this outcome. If we get more people in there, then the benefits can only be better, the premiums more affordable. We talk about quantum of cover. With over 50% of advisors with $1 million, here's just an example of nothing that's out of the usual. 45 male builder, 60,000 DI benefit, and for whatever reason, I won't give you any examples of why that claim could be declined, but it is. So anyway, the claimant lines up the broker and says, right, we're coming to get you. So that policy, it had 20 years to run, is 1,607,000 of lost benefit. The house goes because you can't pay the mortgage. There's cross guarantees for the business using the house as security. Business goes west. The prosecutor says, we're going to get this financial advisor. We're going to done such a bad job, or for whatever reason, and we're going to have punitive damages, loss of dignity, all sorts of other adjectives that they come up with, and allow up another 500,000 in there. So all of a sudden you've got to 3,107,000 in that case, which is considerable. Two things that are missing there. No legal fees, bills yet to come for that. And also, how often is a DI contract sold in the marketplace that has no capital benefits? So if this program was put in place and they had death and trauma attached to it as lump sum benefits, what would that potential claim escalate out to? So that's just food for thought when you're thinking about your individual limits of indemnity. TNP are normally perfect. This time, on their expression of interest feedback form, they did not put on PI to show your interest. So if you want to know more, it's on the website. Email us, come through TNP, notify something on your expression of interest form. I don't care what bed you're in. I want you in our bed as far as the PI scheme is concerned. And it's a damn good duvet and it's quite comfy. So thanks very much.